Well, I've been out here for days, and I finally found it. Rock! You're not just gonna find this anywhere. So I thought I would just talk a couple minutes about Capitol Reef National Park. Capitol Reef National Park is one of the parks that I visited as I visited southern Utah and went to what Utah calls their Mighty Five. That would be Zion Park, Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, Arches National Park, and Canyonlands. Places like Zion and Bryce and Arches get a lot of attention, but for some reason Capitol Reef doesn't, and it's located in between Bryce Canyon and on your way maybe to Arches National Park. And I gotta tell you, it was actually one of my favorite parks that I actually went to. It was absolutely stunning to visit and walk around and hike. I went into the Fruita section, and they call it the Fruita section because it actually has fruit trees. There's lots of things that they grow in the area. I was actually there when they were just ending their pear season and starting to start one of their apple seasons. And I actually got fresh pears right off the tree and fresh apples right off the tree, and it was amazing. I'm not someone who usually goes to the grocery store and buys pears, but they tasted amazing. They were some of the best pears I've ever had, actually. They also have something called the Gifford House, and it's basically like a little gift shop now. It actually was a real home to someone. I don't remember the first name of the person that lived there, but his last name was Gifford. And since then, it's been turned to a gift shop, as I mentioned. But they do sell some of the fruit and stuff that they have in that orchard there. They make them into preserves and jams and syrups, and so I bought a couple of those things, and they were absolutely amazing as well. I think what I liked mostly about Capitol Reef is the history of the area. Because it actually was a community at one point, it was a community to several different people. The Pueblo people, like 1,000 years ago, probably longer. There was actually petroglyphs in the area that you can go see, which was amazing. That was the first place I saw with petroglyphs. I saw lots more when I started getting into Canyonlands, and that'll be in another video of mine. But there was also a lot of people that lived there in the early 1900s, and there's still some buildings standing, like that Gifford House I mentioned. They have a school building standing that you can go visit and see, and that was really cool to read about the history about that. Some really cool hikes that you may want to look at. I did several hikes, but some of the more popular hikes in that area is they do have a bridge there, an arch, and it's called Hickman Bridge. Very easy hike to get to. I think it was somewhere around maybe 1 mile or so to get to. I don't remember the exact length, but it was very easy to get to and a pretty decent, good hike for, I think, almost anybody of any skill level. It was very hot in the area, so that would be the only thing, is definitely bring water. Lots of water on these kind of hikes. And the second hike that I would really recommend to anybody was Cassidy Arch. And it's actually named after Butch Cassidy, because apparently he had a hideout in the area, or at least it was claimed that he had a hideout in the area. But you can actually get out to that arch, and it's not a very popular trail, because again, it's not a really popular park to go to. And what I mean by that is, why is it popular? It is a popular hike in the area. It's just that just not a lot of people go to this park. So you do see people, but just not as much as you would see on some of the other trails at some of the other parks. But it was a really cool one. I really like that one. Another place that you can go to is what they call the Grand Wash. And it's a very easy hike to do. You don't really do any kind of elevation change. You do get to see some petroglyphs. But probably more interesting as you approach the Grand Wash, there is a sign that you can read about how they used to mine for uranium in the area. And it was kind of funny because they talk about how they used to mine for uranium, and they used to wear it around their necks as necklaces and as pieces of jewelry because they believed that it brought them good health. So there's that. So there's actually these caves where they had gone into and mined for this, and it's all boarded up, so of course you can't get in there. But it is pretty neat to kind of walk by and see that this was a radioactive area, and it still is. They have all these signs in there that says do not enter here, and be careful, do not drink the water and things. It's kind of funny. So that was kind of cool. I initially stayed at a place just up the street from Capitol Reef, just outside the entrance. Capitol Reef does have a campground in it, but like any established campground, it costs money to stay there, which is fine. I don't mind doing that. But I was camping every night of my trip, and I did it for about 30 days straight, so that can add up rather quickly. So I mostly went for dispersed camping. The place I ended up staying at was just down the street, about 6.5 miles, and it was just referred to as the Capitol Reef Overflow. That was a great place to camp at. It was, like I said, just outside the park, so it was just down the street, very easy to get right into the park in the mornings when you want to go hiking or anything. Pretty big spots to camp at. Every place had a fire pit already there, laid out for you. Kind of rocky road. I did see an actual sedan car in back there, but it was a pretty rocky road coming in there. It's not a long road to get in there. It's literally right off the main road to get there. But there's some pretty big rocks in the area. I have a Subaru Forester with some pretty high ground clearance, and there's some pretty good rocks sticking up. I didn't have any problems with it, but I was kind of surprised to see other cars doing it. But very good. They even had a pit toilet in the area, so there's that. But yeah, I really liked Capitol Reef. It was one of my favorite parks I visited. I stayed in the area for 3 or 4 days, and Capitol Reef actually has other areas you can visit, but the Fruita is definitely the most popular one.